Hello, my name is Joost Drenth. I'm a gastroenterologist from the Radboud UMC, the Netherlands. And next to me is Thomas Rösch. He's a gastroenterologist from UKE in Hamburg, Germany. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you.
So, recently a paper came out on colonoscopy screening and the effect of colonoscopy screening on the risk of colorectal cancer in the New England Journal of Medicine. It made some headways. Could you summarize, for the benefit of the audience, the paper?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Joost, we are both editors, so we should be happy about top-class research coming out, right? 15 years, those guys were working on the study. They were comparing screening colonoscopy to nothing. And they started in 4 countries. They started with 95,000 people, and finally 85,000 persons were randomized and reported, 1 to 2. They were invited to screening colonoscopy versus nothing. And then they were following them for 10 years. The primary intention of the study is 15 years, but these are the results of the 10-year period.
So, what did the results show you in the end?
Let's move a little bit around first, okay? So the question is that a good colonoscopy? What have they done? You know, they were very careful with the colonoscopies. I know that the first author was traveling around in Norway making sure that colonoscopy is good. And the quality parameters, which we know, were pretty good. Actually, cecal reach was 97%. ADR was close to 31%. Cleanliness was good. So I think these were good colonoscopies. And we also have to say, in the intervention group, not everybody comes. So the general uptake was 42%.
Did the authors actually provide training for the endoscopy, for the colonoscopists?
As far as I know, yes, they get an introduction, they were trained, they were monitored. So there is not so much to criticize. So you couldn't say these were crap colonoscopies.
So what you are saying is essentially that the colonoscopies within this clinical trial reflects the real-world clinical practice, as in Germany, the Netherlands.
Exactly. So we know our ADR. It's not the ADR of your population. You have FIT positive patients. It's much higher. But in Germany, in primary colonoscopy, it moved up from 25 to now 30-ish. So it's actually exactly the same.
So what you're saying, the colonoscopy is a technical procedure, has been done well, and so we should believe the method that the authors have used.
As far as you can say, when 26,000 persons are scoped, right? I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah. A point of criticism here is that not everybody who was invited for the procedure actually underwent a colonoscopy.
That's right. And then we get a little bit closer to results, right? Because there are 2 ways of analyzing those data. From a healthcare perspective, I think it's better to take the intention to treat or intention to screen. That means you look at the entire group, those scoped and those not scoped. So uptake is a decisive factor.
True.
And then, which is, as I understand, I'm not a statistician, it's more difficult per protocol. That means those who were scoped. And here it obviously gets complicated because you have to look in the subgroup. Is this subgroup being scoped different from those who did not accept being endoscoped? And there are different ways to calculate it.
So if you take a look at the top line results, and now let's focus on the intention to treat results like it should be reported. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, how that actually panned out over the time?
Yes. So I think you should see the graph, but this also shows if you see the 2 lines, they start to get apart only after some time. So initially, when you do screening, you find more cancers in the screening group.
Logical.
So the cancer rate is higher, and then the 2 lines cross, and after 10 years, there was a cancer rate of 1.20% in the usual care group versus 0.98 in the entire screening group, intention to screen. So that's a reduction of 18% of the incidence.
So how would you interpret that 18%? I'm not in that particular space. 18%, is that a lot? Is that not so much?
It's less than expected.
Okay, so what would we have expected on the basis of the...
Well, it depends what study you are looking at, but the studies which led to marketing colonoscopy said there's a 80-90% reduction, at least of the cancer incidence. Mortality is still a different story, so that's quite substantially below.
So Thomas, you indicated that not everybody who is invited underwent the colonoscopy. So if we now take a look at the per protocol analysis, if you analyze the data precisely according to the protocol, do they look better?
Exactly, yes. It's, again, as I say, it's obviously a risky business because there are different calculation methods, and we could come back to that when we talk about mortality. But the per protocol analysis, that's 42% who actually took colonoscopy. They had a risk reduction by 31%. So
that's reasonable.
That's reasonable. It's still not sky high. It's still away from those projected way above 50%.
Okay, and the benefit of this trial, given the length and almost 10 years of follow-up, is that you have data on the mortality. And that, I think, is very relevant, in particular in this space where we do colonoscopy. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Here comes the difficult part.
Okay.
Because the reduction in cancer mortality, again, in the entire group, intention to screen, was 10%. And this was not statistically significant.
And is there a power problem?
Not really. I think when you need many, many more patients to prove a difference, then the questions about relevance comes up.
True.
And 10% is not so massive. So, so I think we have to escape to the per protocol.
Okay.
And if you look at the per protocol, and that's the interesting thing, you should think a little bit when you're looking at studies, because you should not only read the abstract, you should go into the details. So there are different ways of calculating. The most friendly one is 50%. But the sensitivity analysis was 0.72, so that would be 28%.
Okay.
So that's the range between roughly 30 and 50%. So every colonoscopist can pick. Most will take the 50, I think.
I can understand that, yeah. The populations that were examined, Sweden, Poland, the Netherlands, are they representative of the population here in Europe?
Well, I think so. I mean, there were differences. There's a huge, as usual in the New England papers, a huge appendix where you can look, and this was also taken up by critics, that there were differences between Poland and Norway, etc., etc. That's more a political argument, isn't it? So everybody can look at the data and say, I don't know, country A is better than country B, and country C, which is not part, would of course be much better. But
okay, so Thomas, let me ask you a litmus question. Do you believe the data?
Yes.
Okay, so if we believe the data and if we accept it, what should we do in clinical practice?
Well, let me go one step back. It's great science. So, and if great science doesn't fulfill the expectations, it's not necessarily bad. You know, we have seen that in the public discussion in COVID all the time. It's a little bit sobering, but we're still having the UEG pin and not a black pin. So I think it helps for informed decision to tell patients about the choice of various tests. And I would like to choose an escape road for the final consequences, because of course the question is, here's colonoscopy, it's less good than expected. What else? And the big competitor, as you in the Netherlands very well know, is FIT, stool tests. So next year probably we'll have the results of the first randomized trial from Spain between FIT and colonoscopy. And then maybe colonoscopy is better in that trial. That's the beauty of big randomized trials. There are always surprises. And then we will see what's better. And then our patients can really compare fairly what to choose.
Another item I think is highly relevant is how the results are being perceived in the field. And in particular, I would like to draw your attention to a recent letter from the leaders of the American Society of Gastrointestinal Endoscopy. Well, in essence saying, we are not so sure whether this paper is really telling us the full story.
That was interesting. The ASG was on fire, right?
True.
They said, this trial has several weaknesses and here and there, and we are better in colonoscopy. That's a typical reaction. Like if you have a surgery versus oncology trial, the surgical arm always says, in our hospital, the results are much better. The answer is, please do a randomized trial by yourself. And other issues that, some countries were better and there was no stage shift, which is another depressing thing, and there should be a stage shift. So I think I've listened to the presentation and to the questions yesterday, which I think the UEG can be very proud of, that this was presented here first.
We are.
And Michael said to many questions, I don't know yet. So right, left, and all that kind of stuff. So these data are secondarily processed and reported, and then I think the judgment can be better.
Do you know whether there's a prolongation of the observation period, so we will know?
Yes. I mean, there is a hope that I think within the next 2 years, the Dutch data, which had to drop out because of data safety concerns, EU regulations, could be added again. The final report will be 15 years, but obviously some subgroup, etc. analysis will be available in 2 years. And there's, of course, some hope that if you look at the sigmoidoscopy trials, where we have now the 15-year results, another paper coming out today in Annals of Medicine, by the way, just as a side remark, the effect might grow a little bit.
Okay, so there's still hope for the procedure.
Course.
Good. With that, I would like to finish our interview. I would like to thank Thomas Rösch for being here with us and alluding to the clinical trial that was recently published in the New England Journal of Medicine. I'm Joost Drenth. Thank you so much for bearing with us, and good luck.